What's up, everybody?
What's going on?
Let me get everybody situated here in the right spots. And as, of course, you would notice, welcome to the NFC EAST Show. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Northeast Streaming Sports, and Zodiac TV. And, of course, you may notice in the fourth corner there where we do not have Chris. He is not a Redskins fan. That is Fox Sports' own Dean Blandino. Welcome to the show, Dean. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. I didn't know we were doing face paint or disguises. And I guess I've got to be the Washington football team in this little foursome here, huh?
There you go. You got the shirt.
Well, Dean,
the right color, right?
Yeah.
As you know, the bearded ones don't have makeup because it takes a minute for it to come out. So you're close enough to be the bearded one. So you get a pass on no makeup.
I got it.
And I'm actually, the reason why I'm doing this is day 19 of the 22 days of face paint for charity as I'm raising money for the Eagles Autism Foundation. So literally, I have had face paint on for the last 19 days, and I will be so happy when Sunday comes.
What does that feel like? Is your skin just like on fire? How do you sleep?
See, I'm a paisan like you. And I have oily skin, so I don't even notice. Hey,
the oily skin, trust me, the oily skin, that's how you look young. It's key.
That's exactly correct. That's why I'm getting close to 50, but people think that I'm 30 years old still.
There you go.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, Dean, not to throw you out there, you're 59, right?
No, you're definitely aging me. I'm 49.
I said, oh my God. I meant, oh my God. I meant 49. I am so sorry. Oh my God.
Dude, that's how Giants fans are, Dean.
No,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I grew up a Giants fan. Come on. We can't.
You know what? Okay, hold on. Let's pause for 1 second. You know what? Okay, Dean, this is my problem. First off, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Stefan, aka Sneaky G Bear. Now check this out. I always have a phobia of when I meet someone such a celebrity like yourself, I say something stupid. Okay.
Well, we got it out of the way.
We got it out of the way.
True story.
Now everything else is gravy.
What I have proof. I have proof. That's how bad this is. The first celebrity I ever met was Tommy Davison in Savannah, Georgia. I was in the military. You know what I did? I asked him for his ID. That's how shell-shocked I was meeting. At least I aged you 10 more years, but no. What I was going to say was, I hope when I hit 59, I did it again. I did it again.
Hey, you know what? For the next whatever it is, 40 minutes or so, I'll be 59. It's fine.
There you go.
If I look 49 like you, I wish I could look good as you. There we go. I say, Jamie, I'm out. I'm done. I'm not. I'm out.
I appreciate that.
All right.
So, this is between two Giants fans, okay? This is two Giants fans.
Oh my God,
Dean! I hope you. I
hope our season is better than this exchange.
Oh my God, me too. Me too.
So I guess I got to ask you right off the bat. I mean, have you finished crying yet about last year and the Eagles not winning that game at the end of the season?
So
because I know Sneaky hasn't stopped crying yet.
Oh my God! Look, I'm not that kind of fan. Like, I get it. You know, everybody's got to do their own thing. And I mean, my brother was calling me, texting me, like, what are they doing? And I'm like, hey, listen, you be better than 6-10. If you be better than 6-10, you're not in this position.
That's facts. Yeah.
Like you don't deserve to be winning the any division title. Even last year's NFC East winning 6 games. So I'm sorry.
And
you got to be better than that.
Had Evan Ingram caught that damn ball,
yeah,
we wouldn't have been in that.
That was it. That people go back to, you want to look at one play in one game. Evan Ingram dropping that ball against that was it.
That was huge.
That was huge.
Well, and also, first off, how long have you been a Giants fan?
My whole life. I mean, obviously, when, I grew up in New York, my dad was a Giants fan. So I grew up when, in the 80s, the Phil Simms, Joe Morris, Lawrence Taylor.
Yes.
So it was a great time to be a Giants fan. And even, with Eli and Strahan, when I got to the officiating department, before I started kind of working my way up the ranks, I was still like a Giants fan. And then as you get higher in officiating, you kind of lose that fan connection. And because when Tom Coughlin is on the phone with you, calling you every name under the sun, I'm not a fan anymore. You're hurting my feelings, Tom. And I don't think I'm going to be a fan anymore.
I would have loved to been you right there. I'd have been like, wait, Tom, wait. Can you say it all over again? Tell me all the names all over again. So, okay.
He's one of my favorites, though. He would chew you out, and then he would be the next day he'd call you, and so I got some good ass chewings, but that's part of the job.
So, and I gotta ask you this finally: who is your all-time favorite New York Football Giant?
I mean, Lawrence Taylor.
Okay.
He, I think he, the off the field stuff notwithstanding, but he changed the game. I've never, still to this day, I don't like. Yeah, there's been guys like Reggie White and even Aaron Donald today that I haven't seen a player change the game from that position, the outside linebacker position, with the combination of speed and just physicality. He was my favorite player. I think he's the best defensive player of all time.
So when you played high school football at Willington Mapham High School, what was your position?
So
and what was your number?
So my number was 75, Mean Joe Green. And I played defensive line. I played a little bit of tight end. We weren't very good at football, so you kind of had to play a couple different positions. But I knew my future. I was more of a baseball player. Baseball was always my first sport, and I knew football. I love football, but I knew my future in football definitely wasn't on the playing field.
Well, what got you to go into refereeing?
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't have any interest in refereeing. I never appreciated. I love sports. I played football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I played it all, loved it. I went to Hofstra University in New York, and just when I graduated, I had a communications degree, and I just sent my resume. All of the the major sports all have offices in New York City. And so I sent my resume to NFL, baseball, hockey. And the NFL called, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was one of my friends, playing a joke. And they had a couple of internships available. And I interviewed. There was one in PR, one in human resources, and one in officiating. And I guess they liked me in officiating, and they offered me a position. And it was that's how I got involved in it. And I just kind of learned, and stayed there and just stuck with it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and how long have you been with the NFL?
So I was with the NFL. My first season was 1994, and then I left in 2016. So 22 years, and then and I've been with Fox Sports since 2017 season.
So now, since you left officiating, you're now rooting for your New York Football Giants. Is that correct?
Yeah. Now you can go back.
Okay.
Yeah, now I follow the Giants. I still root for them. Last couple of years have been rough, but I think there's some hope. I think if Jones can kind of take the next step, and I think the defense could be good. We'll see what Saquon, is he going to be healthy? Galladay, they've got more weapons. Galladay's another one. Is he going to be healthy and stay on the field? So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I'll tell you what. I don't know about you, but for me, this has been the longest off season of my life.
Yeah.
I cannot remember an off season that has been dragging on. It seems like football hasn't been played in like 11 years.
It does. Because last year was such a weird, right? It was so with COVID and protocols and everything else. And it does feel like the draft was years ago. And, so I'm excited. And I know every team, right? And every team in the NFC East has they have their issues,
Yeah.
I was out at Eagles camp and I'm excited about, the new coaching staff and what they can do. You're watching Hard Knocks with the Cowboys and you're seeing all that. So I think everybody has issues like every other NFL team. It's going to be fun to see it all play out.
There you go. So I've got one question for you. You know what question this one's going to be, don't you?
Des didn't catch it. Move on.
Thank you. Thank you.
You caught
Thank
it.
you.
Didn't catch it.
It was a no. Yes, thank you.
Three steps in the
that
week.
play, that Cowboy fans will never let me live it down. And I get it. But I knew when it happened, I was like, listen, we're screwed either way. Like, I was like, I know the rules. I know what we have to do, but it's not going to go over well. It's really, other than Green Bay,
You said
it's not going to go over well.
you said it. You didn't even let him finish. You said no. It is not a catch.
He knew what I was going to ask.
It is not a catch.
I
Get
knew.
over it. It is not a catch.
So Dean, and Fox, so working with Fox and working with college athletes, how's that going?
It's a lot of fun. I love it. I love the people that I work with. We just had our Fox Sports seminar a couple of weeks ago in Phoenix, and you look around the room and you're like, man, there's like Hall of Famers like Terry Bradshaw and Michael Strahan and Howie Long and Charles Woodson just went into the Hall of Fame and Jimmy Johnson. It's insane. It's insane. Greg Olson now is with Fox. So it's so cool to sit there and talk to those guys and just hear the stories and learn from them. It's been such a cool experience for me.
Right on.
So I'm gonna get to what's at hand. There's been some rule changes that the NFL has brought on, and I first off, can you? Because I only know about the one major one that everybody's talking about, this taunting rule, and how the referees are not really sure how to even call it yet. And I think that they're being very ticky-tacky in preseason to try to figure out how to actually call it. What is the actual rule, and how is it going to start to be called?
Yeah, so it's not a rule change. Taunting has been the same for a long time. It's really a point of emphasis, and I've seen this before. It kind of goes in cycles, and I think what the league wanted to clean up was some of the stuff that's kind of directed at your opponent, and that's the key. Like, it's not the celebrations when they score a touchdown or they pick six, and then the whole defense goes down and poses for the camera. That's fine. It's when you get up in somebody's face, you spike the ball at their feet. It's stuff that's directed at an opponent. And I think what you said about the preseason is true. Obviously, we didn't have a preseason last year, and the preseason is so important for the officials because they can kind of look at it and set the bar without affecting the standings, right? You can throw flags, maybe be a little more liberal with throwing flags, because then the league office, they can look at it and say, yeah, that's a foul, or you know what, that's too tight. We want to let that go. So that's what you're going to see during the preseason. And then I think you'll see in the regular season, it'd be pretty cleaned up and everybody will be on the same page.
So, Dean, I'm glad you brought that up. Let me ask you a question regarding a specific scenario. Now, will that rule go both ways, offense and defense?
Yeah,
because
it will.
If I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
If you're familiar with, if I'm not mistaken, it was Tyreek Hill scoring a touchdown, and he was throwing up the deuces, and then in the Super Bowl towards the end, he got it right back in his face. Would that be called both ways?
Yeah, and they actually so the league office, the officiating department, they put tapes together, and those two plays were on the video that went out to the players. and Tyreek doing whatever, the peace sign, whatever he was trying to do the first time. And then obviously in the Super Bowl, karma is what, and he gets it back. But they showed it and they said, look, they're both fouls because they're both directed at the opponent. But I think it goes to show what they're trying to prevent. Because I don't remember who the Tampa player was, but obviously that stuck with him. And what you don't want that to do is now to escalate during the game. Somebody does something to me, I'm going to get him back, and it's going to go back and forth, and eventually it ends in something that could be an altercation. I think that's what they're trying to prevent.
Well, will they follow that up with monetary fines?
Yeah. So anything like that, there's a fine. There's a fine schedule. That if it's a first offense, it could be, I think, the minimum. It's not, it could be like $8 or $9 grand.
Wow.
Comes right out of the game check. So that's part of it as well.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of money.
Is it going to be something like? Is it more meant for individual players, like when you're taunting one specific player, or is it like because they threw the flag, the guy carried 5 guys and got a first down, got up and just did a flex. And of course they threw the flag for 15 yards and nobody quite understood why that was. And of course that went viral because it was such the extreme of the flag. And I got to imagine that the referees then discuss that and says, okay, this is the absolute worst case scenario on why we're going to do this. We can't throw the flag here.
Yeah. That's
I don't know if they have this conversation.
They do, and that's exactly right. So that official, they're told, okay, preseason, let's be strict. If it's close, throw the flag. And now they'll have a library of plays that they can look at, go to the competition committee and say, okay, show that play, and say, do we want this to be a foul or not? And then they'll say, you know what, that's too tight. We want to let that go, or that's a foul. And then they can, before the start of the regular season, they can send the video out to the clubs and say, hey, listen, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. And now it counts. So, the players and coaches are usually pretty good about adjusting to those directions.
Does the NFLPA have anything to say on this?
The NFLPA is part of those negotiations, like the fine amounts and stuff. That's all part of that negotiation. What the player can do when they are fined, they can appeal, and usually their agent, the PA, is involved in that. And members, whenever they're looking at rules changes or points of emphasis, members of the PA, current players, former players, are always part of those discussions, and so they can provide input. They don't get a vote. The clubs, there's whether it's the owner or whoever the designee is gets that vote. But they do provide input.
Okay, good to know.
And will this stem to the defenses have been getting crazier and crazier where they get the interception and it doesn't matter. They could be down. That team could be down 30 points and they're still going to go run 90 yards to a camera on the other side of the end zone and go make, show their stuff to a camera. Is that going to be called now or is that not on the list?
That's separate. As long as it's not directed at an opponent, that's fine. And the league has definitely loosened up on that stuff. I mean, that stuff used to be, 6-7 years ago, that used to be a penalty when you had the group celebrations, choreographed. They've definitely loosened up on that. And I think there's if you talk to some coaches, it's like a creep, right? If you allow this, then what's the next thing that's going to happen? What and are we going? Do we have to kind of rein it back in? So right now the celebration stuff, you're still going to see all that, but if it's directed at an opponent, a lot of what they're showing is more like one-on-one stuff. So the group stuff right now is not a foul.
So I want to let you know something, Dean. Not only do I age people 10 years more than I do other people, but I'm a football connoisseur. I love, of course I love the game. I love the history of the game. I even watch Canadian football. I was into arena football, and now we're having these additional leagues like the AAF and the XFL. one, will the Alliance, what is it, Alliance American Football, will that continue, or is that league done?
No, that league is done. They basically folded, didn't have the finances to continue. The XFL basically shut down during the pandemic when it first hit back in the spring of 2020. That will come back under. It's no longer Vince McMahon, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and his business partner Danny Garcia and a group called Redbird has purchased the XFL, and they're looking to bring it back in the near future. So I think we will see the XFL back.
Now, not that many people, or even the young kids of today, remember the USFL.
Yeah.
And what I can recall, the fault of the USFL was it was trying to compete with the NFL, going from I think it was spring, summer to fall.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to assume here, but I think it's a safe assumption the XFL will not even try that.
No, I think most of these leagues, and the XFL included, they're going to play during the NFL's off season.
Yeah.
I think what people like yourself, fellow football connoisseurs, which I like that word.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a very sophisticated group.
Yeah.
So we're going to use sophisticated language.
It would behoove you.
I was going to say it would behoove you to. Yeah.
It's very sophisticated. I think they saw a real desire and a kind of a void during that spring. And people, the XFL did really good ratings during the spring. And I don't think any of these leagues anticipate competing during the fall. And like you said, that was kind of what undid the USFL when they tried to move, or they were talking about moving to the fall. Because, the NFL is I don't think anyone, no other sport can compete. Certainly no one's going to come in with a new football league and compete.
And if you could, for me for 1 second, put your NFL hat back on. I want you to pretend not only be part of the official, I want you to be one of the executives in this scenario.
Okay.
Now, back when the World League kind of morphed into NFL Europe, where it was an NFL farm league, if you will, do you see possibly some kind of farm league and or a partnership with the XFL?
Yeah, it certainly could be. I remember the World League and the NFL Europe, and it was such a great, not just for players, coaches, front office. I mean, trainers. There's so many positions and so many people that are on a football team and make that happen. And NFL Europe and the World League were great training grounds. And so I could definitely see that. I could definitely see there being some kind of partnership where maybe NFL teams allocate certain players to the spring league and make that happen. So yeah, I don't know, nothing certainly concrete that I know of, but definitely it's not out of the realm of possibility for those conversations to take place, because it makes a lot of sense, because you can really develop. You think about, right, the two positions that clubs always talk about getting, developing quarterbacks and offensive line, and you can really develop those positions and every other position, but especially those. It would be I think a win for everybody.
Now, I'm not familiar as to why the NFL Europe folded or suspended operation. Okay.
It was costing. So the last year it was costing the NFL, owners about 35 million a year, and they didn't see the kind of the return on it. I don't know if that's really short-sighted. I wasn't involved in all of that necessarily, but I think there was some long-term value in that type of league.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Delhomme, Kurt Warner,
sure,
a lot of NFL now Hall of Famer was in those type of leagues.
Yeah, and we've seen guys from the AAF and the XFL now on NFL rosters and playing. I mean, PJ Walker was he basically the MVP of the last year's XFL season, at least the first 5 weeks, and he's playing. I think he's with Carolina. So yeah, it's you do see that talent that can come in and be on an NFL roster.
And now with the NCAA being forced to, I guess, pay their student athletes.
Interestingly enough, that was the question asked by one of our longtime listeners, Eddie. He says, since you dabble with the CFB, does the fact that the players now can make some money on their likeness create a bigger gap between the haves and the haves not? And I think that this also goes with the SEC in comparison to the rest of the NCAA and what that's going to really entail.
Yeah, I think certainly the landscape in college football is changing, and it's changing very quickly. And I don't think anybody knows for sure what the long-term effects are going to be. Look, NIL, I've always been in the camp of, I think these student athletes, they generate so much revenue for these schools that they should get something, and it's their own image, it's their own likeness. I don't know. I mean, you listen to Nick Saban, Coach Saban talk about, well, his guys are going to make close to 7 figures. How much of that is true? How much of that is him, recruiting kind of between the lines? If you come to Alabama, there's so much. I was talking to, a couple, Brady Quinn, who works with us at Fox Sports, who played at Notre Dame and, played in the NFL, and Greg Olson, and they were kind of on different sides of the fence in terms of, what should happen going forward. So, I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting. I don't know if you can it feels like college football right now, even before NIL, there were haves and have-nots, right? Every year it's what? Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma, right? And maybe Notre Dame slips in there. But that seems to be the last however many years. So I don't know how much more the gap can widen. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, I do want to tell you here. I live in Dallas, Texas. Yes, I'm a Giants fan living in Texas.
I love it.
And just so you know, I walk out like this. I don't shy away who I am. There's an athlete, a 5-star athlete quarterback out of Southlake, who's foregoing his senior year in high school.
Yep.
And he can make upwards to $800,000 to over $1 million. Now, my son is a freshman in high school. And I talked about this on one of my podcasts, on one of my shows. I said the fan in me would tell that senior to play. But the father in me, if my son had that same opportunity, I would tell him, you're going to sit out this year. You're gonna make the endorsements, because it's all about social media now. And I mean,
it really is.
Is now, being the football connoisseur that I am, I have a fear that in some ways it may erode the competition as far as high school football and then going into college. I mean, we saw it with Fournette a couple years ago, and what was it? McCaffrey, who sat out their bowl game. Because their bowl game it wasn't a national championship, wasn't a conference championship. For me, I think it might erode to some of the competition. What are your thoughts? I mean, it's kind of it's a loaded question, but what are your thoughts?
No, I think all of that, it's all valid. I think we started to see that, like you mentioned, we started to see star players skip the bowl game because, right, it wasn't the national championship, it wasn't the CFB. I'm on the verge of this life-altering payday, and I don't want to get injured, right? I don't want to. We looked at Nick Bosa, sitting out, having an injury, and then sitting out. Those types of things. And as a father of two young boys, and if they were in the same position, it's hard to sit there and say, don't think about that, right? Go out and play, and let everything will take care of itself. And so the business, and I think that's what it is, the business side of the game and of football is really starting to kind of cross over with the football side. And these young players these young men have to make these types of decisions, and they're not easy because, like you said, you go to school for 3 or 4 years and you're with your teammates, and all of a sudden you're going to tell them, hey, it's for the majority of you, it's your last college game, but it's not important enough for me to play in that game. Those are tough decisions. So I think we're going to see more of that. But the amount of revenue that's generated with these games, I think these kids need to get something. I get it, the scholarship, but beyond that, I mean, they need to have something and need to be able to monetize their own, their own likeness and things like that.
So with the NFL, with the extra game now this season, has the NFLPA and the owners gotten together, with the league saying, hey, we've got an extra game. Are we going to be allowed more than, what we have as a current roster of 53? I mean, are they going to start allowing more players on it? I mean, it's only reasonable.
No question. Those conversations have been happening, with COVID, obviously, because you have, the potential for positive tests and taking out. We've seen, what happened, right? The Vikings just had basically their whole quarterback room wiped out because of positive tests. So they've expanded the practice squad. You can have up to 16. Now the practice squad doesn't cost nearly as much as the 53-man roster. So that's something that has to be negotiated with the owners because that's a significant amount of money. But it definitely, as we look at 17 regular season games, I think they're going to see, if we do see more injuries and we see less playing time, more players missing time, it might be time to look at expanding the rosters because, the fear is you add that extra game and, I don't want to be watching a bunch of meaningless games with, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Donald sitting on the sideline. I mean, I certainly don't want that. So I think it's something you have to certainly be mindful of. And you look at what's happening in the preseason, right? How many starters are playing, right? They're not. Very, very little. I remember the preseason where the starters would play part of probably the first half of the second game and then into the third quarter of the third game. You don't see that. I mean, there are some clubs that don't play the starters at all. I mean, Dak's not going to play. I know he has the lat deal, but Dak's not going to play. A lot of these guys aren't going to play in the preseason.
Well, and we're also talking now that we're talking about COVID. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's the Raiders made an announcement saying that people need to be vaccinated in order to come into the stadium. Yeah. Now, and a lot of the argument is, it's taken away our freedoms, right? I don't want you to jump on that. But
sure.
But just your thought on, the Raiders and other teams. I think the Saints might be doing the same thing. What are your thoughts on teams actually implementing that rule? To me, it sounds like no shirt, no shoes, no shot, no service. Basically,
I mean that's more or less what it is. And with the league coming out and saying, okay, we're not going to reschedule games the way we did in 2020. And so if you have an outbreak and these are unvaccinated players, whatever it may be, there might be forfeits. I mean, a forfeit is worst case scenario because nobody gets paid, neither team. So imagine being on the Giants, and I'll cast the Giants as the good guys in this scenario.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
Okay, imagine being on the Giants, and then the bad guy Cowboys have an outbreak.
I like how you did that.
Outbreak,
I like what you did.
And then that game gets forfeited because of that. Yeah, the Giants get the win, but no one on either team is going to get paid. And NFL players get paid by game. That's 1/17 of your salary. So that's a big deal. So I think, look, I know that there's so much, like you said, the freedoms, and I don't want to get into all of that, but I think the league and these clubs they're just trying to mitigate risk. And I think that's the biggest thing right now. How can we get through? It was amazing to get through 256 regular season games and 11 postseason games in 2020. Now we're adding another week of games. How can we mitigate risk and make sure we get through the entire 2021 season? And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to.
I can understand that. I mean, it just last year made it really difficult seeing empty stands and things of that nature. I mean, I went to as many games as possible. And even then, like we weren't even allowed in the draft unless we got vaccinated.
Right.
So,
Yep.
I mean, whether I felt one way or another, I got vaccinated because I wasn't going to be able to go in the draft.
Yeah.
So if I'm not going to be able to go to an NFL game, guess what? I'm going to go get vaccinated.
And then that's the thing,
just
and
how I feel about
you
it.
have that choice, and you can go and make your own choice, and it is. But it's great to be. You know, I was at Eagles camp, and they had the open practice at the link, and it was so cool. It was the first time I had been in a stadium, and there was only like it was about half full, but it felt like the championship game. It was like awesome, you know, because we hadn't experienced that, you know, when it was only 20,000 fans versus, you know, 60, 70. So 60 and 70 is going to be awesome.
Well, I mean, if
Right.
that was your experience there, then you completely missed out, as I did, on the New York Giant Fan Fest last Wednesday, where it was more fans. So it could have been like your experience would have been tenfold had you been at MetLife. I'm just saying. I'm just
No, I
saying.
know.
Well, it was
Insane.
also 100 degrees there. And Dean, I didn't see you there. I was there at that as well. I was sitting under the big screen by myself with the shoulder pads on up in the, you know, so I get all dressed up for the games, and it doesn't matter practice or not. But it was 100 and some degrees that day, so it was a really hot one. Yeah, so I can imagine why it was only 25,000 fans there. But real quick, of course, we touched on the taunting rule. Is there been any other changes to the rules that maybe, you know, lesser known rules that are going to come into effect this year?
Yeah, I think the one that we'll see, and we've seen a little bit during the preseason, is they've expanded some of the low block protection, so blocking below the waist. You can't block. So they basically created what's called the tight end box. So it's the normal tight end position on either side, 5 yards on either side of the line of scrimmage. So just picture that being a box. And that's the only place where you can block below the waist. So once you go outside that area, offense or defense, you can't block below the waist. And so that's one of the player safety, just to try to continue to protect the lower extremities and, you know, the ACLs and some of those knee injuries that we see from time to time that can be season ending. So there's that. And then I think there, you know, one that will probably come up is the expansion to replay, where the replay official can provide some information, objective information. So if the replay official sees the ball hit the ground and it's clear, they can radio down. They all have wireless communication, and they can radio down to the referee and say, hey, the ball hit the ground, the pass is incomplete. So I think that's hopefully to reduce some of the coaches' challenges and get some of these calls. Doesn't happen very often, but some of the obvious missed calls to kind of correct them without the coach having to throw the red flag.
So I got 2 questions for you. One, not last year, but the year before last, the coaches were allowed to challenge the pass and interference. And now, of course, again, football connoisseur, that looked like to be a fail because it didn't pass. They wouldn't. The overturn was very low, if any, percentage. What was the learning or the teaching moment of that experience for that year that you can recall?
Yeah, I think 2 things, and we've known this in my experience. I always found that anytime you changed a rule because of a reaction to one play, it usually led to a lot of unintended consequences. And obviously that was such a big play. And, you know, in the NFC Championship game back in 2018, but you react to that. You really don't have an opportunity to vet out the change and think about everything that could potentially happen and the consequences. I think the other thing that we learned from it is that, you know, those subjective calls, like holding, like pass interference, those are really tough because there's a standard on the field that the officials are using in real time. And then there's a replay standard where you go slow motion and you can make it look different than what actually happened. And just because the contact occurred on replay a split second before the ball got there and I can freeze it in real time, it's bang bang, right? It's not a foul. So I think you had 2 different standards. I think that's what made it hard. And frankly, I don't think the league did a great job executing it. I think the bar was too high, like you said. the standard to overturn was so ridiculously high that there were some calls that should have been overturned, that should have been pass interference that weren't. And then coaches just said, screw it, I'm not going to challenge if I'm not going to get out, if I have no chance of winning this. And then it went away.
And final, I'll be honest with you, the BCS in the NCAA football, we should just take out the C and call it for what it was. So
let me see what that BS. Animal excrement, right?
I'll let the mind go on that. So then we went to the CBF playoff, where it was contracted for 14 years, if I'm not mistaken, for just 4 teams. But now all of a sudden it's going to 12.
Yeah.
Are we looking at because the theory is that we're going to go to, a 4-region conference, like mega conference. Do you see that? I mean, I know it's a loaded question on this, college football wise, because now the SEC just picked up 2 powerhouses. Texas and the other one escapes me. I can't recall. Oklahoma. Yeah, thank you. So now the SEC is getting bigger and more dominant, if you will. Do you see that's what we're at least right now college football is turning?
Yeah, I mean it could. You see the expansion of the CFP. That's obviously, look, it's exciting. I love it, but to have more teams, because there's always that. Right, there's always that those couple of teams that feel like that they got screwed, and maybe you have an undefeated team that didn't play in a big conference, and you think about Central Florida that one year where they were undefeated and didn't get a chance to get into the mix. So I like the idea of expanding, and I think we very well could see with the SEC expanding, and now we could see maybe the Big Ten and some of the other conferences bring in, and maybe we end up with an NFC, AFC style, 2 super conferences.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's still a ways off, but it certainly could happen because, again, I think Texas and Oklahoma, they still have 4 years with the TV deal in the Big 12, and there's still a lot of CFP money being in that conference with the automatic bid. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next couple of years.
Gotcha. Well, Dean, I know that you have to get going here. I have one last question for you before you head out here, and I really do appreciate you spending time with us today. Do you have any specific game that you remember more than anything else, or one specific call other than the Dallas Cowboys?
The one I remember because it's a funny story. It involved our Giants, and it was the first Super Bowl against the Patriots. So, the Patriots were undefeated, and they were going to be the greatest team ever. And so it was the David Tyree, the helmet catch.
Right.
And I'm in the replay booth, and everybody knows, my family knows. Look, during the Super Bowl, I'm working. Like don't call me, don't text me. And the David Tyree play happens, and we're obviously looking at it, and I'm kind of overseeing what's happening in the replay booth. And we see it's a catch, and we kind of go through our deal. And my phone, I've just got the phone on the desk next to me on vibrate, and I see my mom call. I'm like, I don't know. And then she calls again. So I'm going, oh no, is this an emergency? She knows I'm at the Super Bowl. So now I've got like this bad feeling. So I pick up the phone and I'm like, Mom, and she goes, did you see that catch? Okay. Yeah, everybody in America and a lot of the world saw the catch. Mom, I'm working. Bye. Talk to you after the game. So I'll always remember that play. This is my mom.
I want to let you know,
awesome.
I met David Tyree 2017 when they played against the Broncos. Great guy. I shook his hand, and I haven't washed, even through the pandemic, I have yet to wash my hand since. Now, Dean, I know that I've aged you multiple times. I am now following you on Twitter. If you could follow me back, and please forgive me for aging you.
Of course, yes. Absolutely.
Just know that the age that I was giving you, you were. Just think of it this way. I'm a positive person. Okay,
I appreciate that.
You were just closer to retirement. That's what I was doing for you in that aspect of it.
There you go.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Myers Island. Without their Twitter group, and I don't even know how.
I love those guys. I couldn't connect with them when I was in Philly. Next time, guys, I promise.
Yeah, because they don't let you down on that either. They started hammering you on it. I was like, whoa, I get them on the show. Don't piss them off now.
No, those guys are great. Hope
you had fun, Dean.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. And there you have it. Great guy. Great guest. So thankful to have him come on our show. We get to get to a little bit of knowledge here. We got to get to see a little bit about what's happening with the rules and so on and so forth. I mean, because like I said, I know on my TikTok, there was at least 3 or 4 people that showed that flag where the guy just got up after bullying, like the whole defense was on his back. He like carried him like 4 or 5 yards. He got up and just did a flex, and the referee threw a 15-yard penalty on him.
Yeah,
and it was like, and it was amazing because he's like, yeah, I saw that one, because obviously it went viral because it was really the opposite side of.
See, I was more on the, what you were talking about, how if they're on the 1 yard line, they'll run 99 yards to go celebrate in front of the TV. And I'm like, just turn around, guys. There's a camera right there.
Right.
I think because I think the officials are going to start getting into the delay of game penalty right there. I don't think it's going to be for excessive. I think it's going to be more for a delay. And that's what I was, I think he was inferring to, that they're not going to get mad doing all this, but, if they do it too long.
Well, and that's really it. Like, do you have to go run 100 yards to go to another camera? You know what I mean? Like, and then when you're there, you just ran the 100 yards, so you've wasted that time. And then you got to sit there and go,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and nobody cares. Nobody cares, especially when you're down like 30 points.
Yes.
And you do that. Like, in fact, I find that's really it's the opposite. You're going to go showboat after they scored 30 points on you and you finally made a play. You're going to go showboat that? Get off of my TV is what I feel.
Well, yeah, I'm on the same exactly. You're down and you celebrate whether you even received or rushed. You're there celebrating when you're somehow down and there's no chance of you winning. That's it's uncalled for. It's not going to get you anything. Yeah, you're going to get the likes, you're going to get the posts. As Sneaky said about the social media, it's all revolves around that, but it's a team effort, not a.
See, you two are fighting over that, and I'm like, I just called this man 59 years old twice. What the?
And he's a little. He's a little older than me.
I know.
Touch.
Yeah, same here. And I'm like, good God. It's time for me to go to bed.
I was going to say, for 59, he looks great.
I know. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but the more thing, too, is about the extra players, or not the extra players, but, I really think they need to bump up the roster, being that, 17 games. They should bump it up at least 2 or 3.
I thought that was part of the agreement.
Not practice squad. I'm talking about, 50. So have 55 to 56 per team.
So it's still a 53-man roster.
Yes.
Oh,
right. But they have the 15-man practice squad. I mean, it used to be 3-man practice squad. So the fact that they moved it to 15, I think, is really what they were going to do. The reason why they're not moving it to 54 or 55 had more to do with the actual dynamic of where that player actually goes. You know what I mean? It's like they can't really, if they were to remove the kickers, from the roster, and you were allowed to have 53, like in essence 55, that a kicker didn't count against the roster spot. that's what they were considering. At least that's what I heard. I could be way off on that, because I'm not in the room with those conversations. But that there was no way of being able to say, well, you're going to have one on defense and one on offense. That if you just add a spot, well, that spot could go to any place. So you could have, that sixth receiver on your roster. Yeah. And you don't need the sixth receiver. You know what I mean? That's not what the rule was meant for.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Going back on all these players, I mean, yesterday, what was it? The first set of cuts yesterday?
Correct.
Yeah, five-man cuts. So come after this next game, there's going to be, they've got to cut it down to 70 something and then 53. So it's going to be interesting.
And Alfred Morris did not make he got released. I think it was Monday, if I'm not mistaken, Monday or Tuesday. It was painful, but when I saw the game, I thought maybe they'd give him one more chance, another opportunity. But I think he had negative total yards, like -4. So Oh, Jamie, I'm feeling that. Oh man.
Yeah, sorry. that caught me off guard. It's like,
it's contagious. It is contagious.
Yeah, exactly. So I figure that Morris will come play for the Eagles for a game or two, so that he would have the entire NFC East.
Might as well.
Covered.
Might as well.
He can drive there. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy.
If we didn't have 18 running backs already, I would say bring him on up. But it's ultimately we have our fill. In fact, we got rid of the guy who we brought over from Detroit. He didn't make the cuts. So obviously he didn't mean much because I don't remember his name either. But like I said, it was we still have. I have a feeling that we're going to wind up cutting Jordan Howard.
Wow. I'm hearing all the talk coming out of your camp from your team for your quarterback. How are you interpreting that? From your perspective, that the players are speaking highly of your quarterback.
Well, I think that some of that is a little lip service.
Yeah, they have
some of that is. Some of that is.
That's what I'm asking.
But the word on the word from the practice is, and this was coming both from New England and from Philly, that the best quarterback on the field was Jalen Hurts. That's a big deal. And then obviously Cam is in the mix there, and other people but Cam's past prime. You know what I mean? And then they got the rookies and stuff like that. So and then you got Mullins, who he's going to wind up in somewhere else, obviously, because he's not going to make it. Flacco's going to hold the clipboard here and help out as best as possible. Yeah. But if we wind up going to have to go to a backup quarterback, our season's over. Flacco is not. We'll be the Jets. You know what I mean?
You don't think Flacco has a little bit left in the tank? You think he's done?
Yeah, that tank is in Maryland's. You know what I mean? So he doesn't have a hose that'll get to that tank. That tank is long gone. But he does have the eyes of a quarterback who has been in the NFL for a lot of years, and that's what is the worth of him. Yep. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I mean that's I don't want him on the field. If he makes it on the field, then we're going to lose. You know what I mean? However, if he's going to be able to mentor Jalen Hurts and explain to him some of the things that he's seeing, that's going to be invaluable. That's the invaluable part of a backup quarterback.
I got to say this. I've seen you in makeup so much. I don't know what your face actually looks like now without makeup on.
Well, I will say, and I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate True Blue that you with your donation and everything. For everybody, I did on this Saturday, we did have our fundraiser, and we raised $2,600. And in the process of donating that $2,600, owner of the Philadelphia Phillies doubled it.
Oh,
So
wow.
the 2,600 became 5,200. Plus, I did some raffles to give away trips and such like that. All told, we raised over like $3,000, and right now I have a grand total of $8,200 raised for charity, and I'm trying to get to 10 as best as I can. And like I said, literally, and as Dean mentioned as he first goes, he goes, we didn't realize we were going to do the face paint. And I'm like, yeah, well, this is day 19. Day 19 is like, how's your skin? I'm like, I'm a paisan. Hey, yo, away. And then he understood that it comes out. So I guess for him, I should have did the face paint. I could have done the whole referee paint.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah.
So, but like I said, it was great having him on. And next week, as I got clowns to the left of me, clowns to the right of me. Here I am stuck in the middle. We're gonna have Jim Jeffcoat and Byron Williams, Dallas Cowboy and the New York Giants on our show next week. And it's possible because on Saturday I did happen to have a Super Bowl winning offensive lineman here. He didn't win it with the Eagles, but he did win it with the Steelers. And Barrett Brooks was here. And he said he was going to stop back by the bar next week. So we'll see if he comes back. And then we may have 3 guys from the NFC East here. On one show.
That would be awesome.
So I can't guarantee Barrett, but I am going to be able to guarantee Jim Jeffcoat. What was he most known for? True Blue?
Jim Jeffcoat? He was one hell of a player for us, man.
Yeah,
my dad, I remember one of the greatest stories my dad told me. Hollywood Henderson, from the Dallas Cowboys. He would tell me stories on the airplane about these guys after he was getting out of the NFL. He was still sitting there seeing Jim Jeffcoat back in the 80s. Watching 7-7 run around was one of the best things that my dad would tell me, next to Too Tall Jones, your buddy. Yeah, man. It leaves me, to have a chance to speak with him next week is going to be pretty awesome. I think.
He
won 2 Super Bowls.
Didn't he have something happen? Didn't he have something happen in the Super Bowl?
I don't like talking about that stuff.
Yeah, but he did, right? You guys won that Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
it's funny, because we won, but he did have something happen in the Super Bowl, right? That was BB knocking the ball out of the hand, right? That was the Buffalo Bills touchback. He ran it all the way back and showboat.
Well, we all showboat once in a while.
I thought that was Leon Lett.
That was Leon Lett.
No, that wasn't. I was Lett.
Yeah,
not Jeffcoat.
No,
what did Jeffcoat do?
That's why.
Did Jeffcoat do something? I thought Leon Lett was the one that actually touched the
that
blocked kick. The blocked kick.
Yeah, that was
the Miami Dolphins.
That was him too. Yep.
That was him too.
Yeah.
All right. A lot of Lett.
Jim Jeffcoat was on, earlier than that.
Okay.
So.
All right. I don't remember. I don't remember.
Well, he does have 2 Super Bowls though.
He does have 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
That is correct. So a dual-time Super Bowl winner.
God.
And Byron Williams does not have a Super Bowl.
No, he doesn't. And it was the 85 season.
The Chicago Bears.
Yeah, 86 was when we won the first one.
Got you.
You'll. I can't wait to see these guys. It's pretty cool talking to these guys, seeing them. It's just like seeing these Hollywood. Not the Hollywood guys, the Hall of Fame guys. When you're a person, you see them up close. You see how big they are, man. These bigger than life as fans. When you're sitting there keeping an eye on them and having just a simple conversation is pretty awesome.
Right, and that's what I like best. The fact that you can have a beer with them because they are human beings. That's what they are. They're beyond everything else. They put on their pants the same way. and really, like I like asking questions, but I don't need to, fawn all over them. You know what I mean? I just want to be a fan of people. You know what I mean?
The only difference between them and us is that their drinks are a lot smaller in their hands.
Well, you can speak for yourself. I got some big mitts. You know what I mean? So my hands are just as big as these guys. I just am not as big as them. Even with the shoulder pads, I had the shoulder pads on, and Barrett Brooks still. I look like a I look like too small.
I would love to play catch with Phil Simms. That would be the ultimate right there. You
better not go try to run a pattern.
There's anything on my body says anything about wide receiver or running, let alone running for a pattern. No. I was a quarterback in high school for a reason.
So Sneaky would have his son catching the ball and passing it so he could throw it back.
Exactly. Yep.
That's exactly correct. That is exactly correct. So,
that's awesome.
All right, guys, our hour is up. But again, thank you very much, Dean, for coming on our show. Dean Blandino being on our show tonight. He was a fantastic guest. Tune in next week when we have Jim Jeffcoat and Byron Williams on. And again, it was a great show, guys. And we will see you next week on the NFC EAST Show. Go Birds!
Let's go Giants!
Oh, yeah!
I had to sneak that in there.
That's why they call you your name, Sneaky G.
Exactly. Hold on one second here. Let me